Hi guys, welcome to LaForte Daily Demos. Today I'm going to take a little infographic image like this and just do a few things in Photoshop to clean it up a little bit and make it a little bit more presentational and refined for distribution for the web or for like a website or for your portfolio, your online portfolio. In this image you can really see it's just a simple black and white image. So first thing we do is we can see up here at the top, this was photographed, so it's not a great scan, a high quality scan. It's just simply photographed in a classroom, and your camera always is going to capture in RGB color mode, and this is an 8-bit image. First thing I want to do is go ahead and change this color mode to grayscale. I don't need the color in this case, so it's just taking up extra data space, making an image, the file size larger than I need. I'm going to go over here to my tool palette on the left, and underneath, and most of the time you'll see your crop tool here like this. If you click on that crop tool, go to perspective crop tool just underneath that. So you got to click and hold down and then release there. And now I can crop from corner to corner over here, pull the corners to the distorted corners, I guess you could describe it. A little bit like that. So I'm lining it up down here, and over here I'm just going to pull it out just a little bit. I'm lining up with the edge of the paper and across the bottom, across the top, and I'm idealizing the lines a little bit. And once it feels about right, just go ahead and hit enter or return on your keyboard if you're on a PC. And that looks pretty good. The rest of this I can now clean up by hand or with the eraser tool, with brush tools, things like that. So we're in pretty good shape. What I want to do now is you can see down here there's a little bit of grayishness, a little dirtiness in here. So we're going to get this to be a little bit cleaner black and white, a little crisper, a little more contrasty. So I'm going to go ahead and use image adjust levels, and this is a keyboard command that I use all the time, so it's a good idea to remember it's Command L on the Mac and Control L on the PC. So that'll save you a lot of time to remember short keys. I'm not going to get into curve adjustments for this tutorial. I believe curves are more for intermediate and advanced students. This is really for introductory or entry-level beginner students. In this little diagram, this is called a histogram, this graphic representation of the data that we're looking at. Grayscale makes this a lot easier than when we're working in color. So when I do this in another image or another demo, you'll see it'll get a bit more complex with the color spectrum, the color gamut. In grayscale, it's very straightforward. Over here on the left-hand end of the histogram is a little toggle key. That's our black point. In other words, what is the black in our image? On the right side is the white point and the mid-tone gray in between. So you can see we can make this a very dull kind of gray image. We can kind of push those values around a little bit. What I want to do is go ahead and use I'm going to set this back at 1.00 here. I'm going to go ahead and use the white dropper tool, and I'm going to go in my image and just grab sort of that grayish dingy area, maybe over here on the left or so, something like that. You do want to do is be a little bit careful. You can click around in different areas, as I am doing, and get slightly different results. You do want to be careful that you're not losing too much important drawing, like her hand right here may be really important. I may be losing that a little bit if I am not careful. So if I pull this gray, for example, I start to lose the hand. So find a balance point that you're comfortable with or happy with for your image that's giving you the best visual results, that you're finding a good balance between your blacks and your whites and your grays. I think that looks pretty good. It looks pretty cleaned up. I'm going to use the black dropper tool as well to select here the black area. And you can see my image has gone really nice, crisp black and white at this point. I'm okay with that. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Command plus and minus on your keyboard, really Command equal and minus on your keyboard, but I like to think of it as plus and minus. Allows you to zoom in very quickly. Command 0 allows you to zoom to the entire image area. So get comfortable with zooming in and out using the keyboard commands. It's a lot faster than using the magnifying glass or something. Again, this is a very poor quality image. Unfortunately, there's a lot of pixelization in here, and I'm not going to worry about that today in this demo. But I just want to show you how you can kind of clean this image up a little bit. So I'm going to use the eraser tool now. E for eraser. just jumps right here to the eraser. There you go. E is the shortcut, and you can see that on the right-hand side. Using the bracket keys on the keyboard, I can zoom in and out of the brush size. And I can also use X on the keyboard, and that will swap the foreground and the background colors. You can see them swapping back and forth right there. So in this case, because I'm erasing, I'm going to make the brush a little smaller, and I've got black and white is reset right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and erase out the parts that I want. I can switch to pencil, and that will be a crisper line rather than a fuzzy feathered edge like the brush tool. So if we go to pencil and brush, I swapped between those. You can also change your brush to a hard edge brush or a soft feathered brush. So a few different ways you can change your brush settings right there without really making a huge difference in the results. If I want to clean up this line right here, I'm going to click right here. I just clicked right here once with my mouse key, and I can hold the shift key down and I can click again, and it'll draw basically a straight line between those points. So I can kind of clean that up a little bit. Again, I'm going to switch over here. X on my keyboard is going to switch to white in the background. I'm going to use my bracket key, in this case the left bracket key. The brackets are the two keys next to your P on your keyboard, and I'm just going to erase that out a little bit here. And I'm going to go ahead and erase across the top over here and clean that up. I'm going to swap again X on my keyboard for my black background. Use a slightly larger brush, and I'm going to click here and then shift and click over here, and I'm going to kind of erase that line out, that little dent out a little bit. You can see a little bit of dinginess in here, so I'm going to swap again my keyboard X, get white in the background, and then I can kind of come in here and clean that up. So this is really clean, really simple, basic Photoshop cleanup work. And just about everything that you see that goes online has some kind of doctoring and retouching. Very rarely, I mean, usually if you don't doctor the image, it looks dingy and dirty. Even if it's a scan, it needs cleanup work. So no matter the quality of the input source, everyone cleans up their work. So just clean up some of these artifacts from the poor quality photo, clean that up right there. So again, what I'm doing is I'm holding the shift key down. I'll do it right through here. If I click here and I hold shift key down right now, clicking and holding down and then shift key, I'll draw a straight line right through there. Now obviously I don't want to disrupt that drawing, but over here if I'm cleaning up the right or left side over here, I'm going to click there, hold down the mouse key, and then shift, and then just drag the cursor, and I get a nice straight line right there. So I've got my left hand on my keyboard on my on the shift key basically, and that allows me to kind of work around here really quickly, clean up some of these dingy areas, and work across spaces like this very quickly. Now again, you can also click and do a straight line in a diagonal like that. So Command Z to undo that, or Control Z on your PC. And again, this is really for beginners. It's not an advanced tutorial. It's a really basic cleanup kind of tutorial. So hope that helps. And let's see here, what else can we do? Well, let's take out this edge of the paper. Let's clean up the illustration across here a little bit, clean up that line, and take out that line across there. We'll clean up this arrow. And you can see this little black and white drawing illustration by the student is starting to look pretty good, pretty presentable. And if I spend enough time cleaning up all these artifacts, eventually we'll get to some really nice clean illustration work. I wish I knew which student this was. I'd love to give credit to the student whenever possible. But I don't know. They didn't put their name on their presentation, so that's what happens when work is left in the classroom sometimes. So, all right. So, clean up this edge, take that off. Now, one thing you want to be careful of is if this is going to go to print. If I zoom in here enough, you'll start to see some little hazy bits in here. You really do want to clean those up if it's going to go to print, especially. Maybe online it might be less noticeable, maybe less of an issue. But when that goes to print, the printer is going to see that gray data, and it's going to try to print it. So you're going to get a fuzzy, hazy, kind of grayish background. So you're going to really want to clean up your work. This haziness in here may not be translating, but if we open up the info palette here, if I pull my cursor over the top of it, you'll start to see the CMYK values. Let me tear that off and pull that over here. You'll see the CMYK values are bouncing around a little bit, 1%, 2%. So that means there's a little bit of a value in there, and that is going to print, as well as all these little gray dots and things like that. So you do want to watch out for that stuff. Sometimes you have to move your head around a little bit to see your screen a little bit better, see the background dirt a little bit. I'll do some more demos that are similar to this with illustrations at some point here, and you know, like design drawings and illustrations, and you can see how important it is to clean up your sketches a little bit. Getting this one done, and again, I'm going to go ahead and swap my foreground background. Go ahead and erase that black, make a nice clean edge over here, nice clean edge, and I'm going to just click here and then click there and click there, and I'm holding the shift key down and just bring that out. I'm going to go ahead and swap X again on my keyboard, swapping the foreground and background tones, colors. Again with the eraser, I'm just erasing along here. And clean up this gray, clean up that while I'm here. Oops. There we go. And I'm going to make my brush a little smaller. Again, you might see me jumping up and down on the brush size. I'm going to undo that a couple times here. I think I need a slightly smaller brush. There we go. I'll just clean that out. I know I painted that in earlier, but I want to create this a little bit stronger edge on this graphic arrow that the student has created. So there's our little illustration cleanup work. And again, you can see that gray, and you can see the values in the CMYK value set up here, or the black. K stands for black. You can see how the gray is 24%. That's actually quite a lot right there, and that's that's going to really look dirty when you go to print. Again, on a screen, on you post this to your Facebook account or Pinterest or something like that, Instagram, whatever you happen to be using, Behance if you're using Behance, whatever you're using for your online portfolio, your website. If you push that up on your website, it's not going to be a big deal. You're not going to see a lot of these subtler gray tones so much. But when it goes to print, it's going to look disastrous. So for presentation purposes and things, you really got to clean up your whites back here. Now again, I could use my levels and I could clean up the whites through here. I could select that gray and see how the software interprets it. Sorry for the jumping around. It's I think there's a little bit of a lag sometimes in the video capture and my panning. To pan around the screen, by the way, just use the space bar. So you just click on the space bar and you get the little hand tool like that. You get the hand tool and you can just click and drag your screen around. So that's kind of a quick and dirty cleanup of this particular illustration. Oops, let's go ahead and again X swap my foreground background using the right bracket key, shift and drag, and I just clean up this edge over here. So clean that up. And now we've got a nice clean, pretty cleaned up black and white illustration. If I were to spend some more time on this, I would actually separate the text here into a separate layer. So what I might do is, oops, I'm going to go to Polygon Lasso tool. I'm going to select the text up here, along here, and I'm going to cut Command X and then Command V to paste it, and now it's come up in its own new layer, and I'm just going to push that back over here in approximately the same space that it was before. I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to go back to my background layer, and now what I can do is use, for example, an ellipse, perhaps something like that. And I can go to select and modify. Where is it? Where is it? Transform selection. Let me undo that and go back to that because I hit that pretty fast. Select transform selection, and that allows me to rotate my ellipse, and I can even stretch it out if I need to. So what I'm looking for now is to create a smoother line across here that I can use as an airbrush or edit edge, something like that might be a little bit nicer. Okay, so I've got a nice line along there now. I'm going to go back to my layers, make sure I'm on the background layer. And now, with that selection on, if I use my eraser tool and X, I get the white background, and when I erase along here, it'll stay to, it's erasing only inside the selection and not outside the selection. So I can erase like that, and it'll erase right along the ellipse line. Again, spacebar to pan. Spacebar, click, and pan. So now I'm getting a nice clean ellipse line up to there. I'll have to probably do the other arc a little differently. There we go. And now you can see this little bobble here that I want to clean up. I'm going to go to select inverse, and then I can go again, swap my colors, X, swap my background. And now my selection is out here where the black is. So if I just draw through here, I'm actually painting that black along there. And then Command D will turn off the selection completely, and I've got a nice smooth clean line there. Turn my layer 1 text back on. And you can see it's popping out right there a little bit. Whoops. Switch to the layer 1. You can see it's popping out there a little bit. That's all right. In this case, what I'm going to do is Control T. Control T is actually under Edit, Transform, and it's these little guys under here, these transform functions. Control T will just bring up transform, free transform right there. So it's a shortcut, Control T, and now I can just scale it. And if I want to distort it, I can. But in this case, I don't really want to distort this student's lettering. I just want to leave it as she created it. Command T again, or Control T on the PC. And now I'm going to hold Shift key down, and it'll scale it proportionally so it doesn't wind up distorted. I can also, if I drag my cursor out here off of the corners, I can rotate it as well. So I could actually play around with that a little bit. Again, I really don't want to modify her presentation. I'm just cleaning it up for my course's website. And that is a cleaned up edge over here with the cleaned up text. And I could do the same thing up along here, along the edge of the top. So we'll go back, and while we're here, why not? Again, use the lasso key. Let's go open up the layers palette. Open up the lasso. I'll just go along here. There we go. And I'm going to Command copy and paste. It's now there. It's in its own layer. I'll go back to my... So I could also double click on the layer there, and I can rename this Taking A, and I can relabel this one, double click on it to highlight the layer, and then change this to Polaroid picture. There we go. So this is the bottom right, and this is the top left. Okay, so if I turn those off, you see they go away. Whoops. Oh well. And then background, again, I'm going to draw an ellipse with the marquee selection tool. And then if I want to get that to align with that arc, I go to Select, Transform Selection, rotate this, and then I can stretch it or twist it and refine its position a little bit. Try and get it pretty close to the line that she was aiming for, which that is pretty darn close. I think I like that pretty well. And I think that's pretty good. So I hit Enter on the keyboard, and that's it. And then I'll go to my layers. I'm on my background layer, double check my layer. Use the eraser key, E for the eraser key. E on your keyboard jumps to the eraser. Again, check your black your foregrounds and backgrounds. My selection is, I'm going to affect inside the selection right now, so that means I need white. So X to swap the colors, and there's my white, right? And I'm going to be a little slower here. I could zoom in. Again, Command plus and minus on the keyboard. And just clean up that edge. Very nice. You know, a lot of designers today are using styluses, tablets, Wacom tablets, and things like that. We also now, with Apple's new iPad, oversized iPad, we have the option of using that as well. But a lot of offices still work with just simple keyboard. I kind of grew up in the keyboard generation, just using a mouse and a keyboard. So a lot of my workarounds are built around not having access to a stylus and tablet back in the day. So pretty comfortable with it. You work however you like to work, but yeah. This also helps when you have a computer lab that doesn't have tablets and things like that. So work however you feel comfortable, but so there we go. I'm going to go ahead again to select inverse. And now the background, the black areas basically, or the opposite of the ellipse is selected. So again, I'm on my eraser tool. I'm going to swap it, the colors, the background. I'm going to use a much larger brush now. And I can pretty much just paint along that line with black like that. I'm going to take out all that text because it's on another layer. There we go. Command D to turn off the selection. Look at the nice clean arc edges now. I'm going to turn the text back on, and Polaroid as well. And I'm on the taking A layer. I'm going to go back to the move selection tool, which is the very top tool. And that's V on my keyboard. And I can move this around as I need. Command T. And I'm just going to scale it down a little bit. There we go. And now I can just go through and I can erase this little bit of white out of here. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase. Now on a copied layer, if I turn off the background, when I erase, I'm actually erasing the black in this case, and it leaves us with this checkerboard pattern underneath that shows us that it's transparent. So I don't want to erase this text or I'll wind up with a hollow spot there. You can see it. It's going to be like the black is going to go right through. So be careful about things like that you do. In this case, I want the white to be opaque, the white lettering to be opaque. And at this point, I also see I can adjust my levels again, Command L, and I'm going to use my white dropper. I'm going to grab that little gray right there, and I get a little bit cleaner text. Black for the background. There we go. So now I got rid of some of the artifacts and dirt inside there, a little bit cleaner. I'm going to go down and do the Polaroid picture text as well. So you can isolate things as you're working and break down your cleanup work. And very often you have to do that. So I'm using the white dropper again, choosing some of these little dirty grays inside there and getting the text cleaned up a little bit better. So let me show you another selection option here. For example, the word snap here. If I use the lasso key, again, use the polygon lasso. Controlling the freehand lasso is good for just quick selections of something like this, or or selecting around snap in a very loose sort of way like that. But it's very difficult to control this and hold on to it. Well, for me, I'm a lefty when I draw, but I actually use the right, the mouse on the right with the right hand. But selecting that and controlling it is very difficult sometimes. So it's a lot easier and more forgiving to use the polygon lasso, which I can then hold the shift key down, and I can just kind of select around here very quickly. And I don't have to be very perfect. Oops, there we go. And then I can do levels. Again, I'm on my background layer. Be careful you're on the right layer. Command L for levels. And again, I'm going to use my white dropper and select some of this dirty gray in here. There we go. Those all go away. Use my black dropper if I want. Get this to make sure this is nice and black. Very good. And I just cleaned up the artifacts from the poor quality photo that this was. So I can go through and I can fine tune the selections and the artwork that way too. Well, while I'm here, I don't want to extend this video too long, but we can use burn and dodge tool over here, burn tool. Burn tool will allow me to, oh, I've got too large of a brush here. Turn this down a little bit. There we go. Smaller brush. I can see it again. And I can burn this line work back in a little bit here. So burn tool is a little bit like getting a sunburn or a tan, you know. You go out and your skin gets darker in the sun. So easy way to think of it is burn, get darker, and dodge, which is the opposite tool underneath here. Dodge would be to lighten your line work. So in this case, I'm just trying to darken some of this line work around the illustration. And again, it's poor quality photo, and that's why it's such a low resolution illustration. It's about really pixelated artwork, but I can get a lot of my artwork to be a little bit stronger here to read. Not my artwork, sorry, my students, or a student, one of our students. So now you can really see her drawing, or the illustration is really kind of coming out. And that's going to look a lot better online. Get the hand to pop again. There we go. So this illustration is pretty nice and clean for presentation or for going online, going on web. Hope this helps. I'm going to clean up a couple things here. Erase again. Ooh, change my colors. Whoops, there we go. Correct that. There we go. Anyway, so I could spend as much time as I have available to, or for whatever my purposes are, to clean this up. But I hope that helps, and I'll share with you some more tricks and techniques with some other illustrations and drawings in another video. All the best.